Pastor, let me ask you something that might sting a little. If your church closed its doors tomorrow, would your town even notice? Would the families in your neighborhood feel the loss? Would people say something's missing? That's a tough question, I know, but it's also the kind of question that can change everything. Today, I want to walk with you through the 6 pillars of church health. Healthy churches don't just happen by accident. They're built on a foundation, or what I call the 6 pillars. And here's the best part. You don't need a big budget, a massive staff, or the newest building to have these pillars. You can start right where you are. So let's walk together through these 6 pillars, and by the end, you'll have a simple framework you can use this week to see where your church is strong and where you need to take the next step. These 6 habits that shape a church aren't just about surviving week to week, but about designing a community that's alive, fruitful, and impactful, which is why we start with pillar number 1, engaging worship. Engaging worship is about helping people truly connect with God in a way that feels alive and welcoming. Engaging worship isn't about stage lights, smoke machines, or perfect performances. It's not a show. It's about helping people truly encounter God through music, through prayer, through scripture, and even giving. It's creating a space where visitors feel at home, kids are cared for, and everyone is invited to participate. Pastor, think about it this way. If someone brand new walked into your church this Sunday, would they sense God's presence? Would they feel welcome? Would they leave thinking, hey, I belong here? What would they feel in your church? If your mind went blank after that question, here's how you can apply this pillar this week. Train greeters to do more than just say hi and give directions. Teach them to walk guests where they need to go. Pastor, imagine a parent. They come into your church with 2 children, carrying a baby, visiting for the first time. Instead of a greeter standing there pointing and saying, go down this hallway, turn right at the 3rd door, go down the stairs, go left at the bottom of the stairs, and the nursery is the 2nd door on the left. Imagine the difference between giving directions to the nursery and actually walking them there. A nervous parent will never forget this difference between someone pointing and someone walking them there, helping them sign in, and introducing them to the people who will be taking care of their children. Next, frame giving as worship. Giving is a huge barrier for people. Unfortunately, rightly so, some people think the church is all about money. Things are said like,
all the church wants is my money. All they talk about is money.
To remove this barrier of giving, frame giving as an act of worship. Instead of saying, we need your money to keep the lights on, say, we give because God first gave to us. When giving is framed in this way, the heart is shifted in understanding why we give to the church. Next, write your sermon in 1 sentence. I found out when consulting churches, this is a major reason why not only guests don't return, but regular attenders don't stay. Pastor, this might hurt, but you don't need to put everything you studied that week in the sermon. Giving 10 scripture passages, 5 theological quotes, 3 Greek words, and 2 songs in a sermon doesn't make it impactful. Honestly, it makes it confusing. Imagine you're traveling to my house and I'm giving you directions. I tell the history of my town, how the high school won the state tournament last year, gave you a list of the last 5 mayors, and told you about how they are about to pave certain roads in the town. Does that help you get to my house? No, it doesn't. But that is the exact thing that we do in sermons. We give way too much information. That is why writing your sermon in 1 sentence is so important, because it produces a clear one big idea that your sermon is anchored in. Once you have that sentence, repeat it at least 3 times during that message. That's what people will remember Monday morning. If you need help writing sermons, you can download my sermon prep worksheet or schedule a free 30-minute call, and I can walk you through how to create a sermon's one big idea. Links to both are in the description below. I once visited a church that had no band, no fancy screens, just a piano, a couple of singers, and a pastor with an open Bible. Do you know what? The place was alive. People sang like they believed every word. The sermon was straightforward, drawing directly from the text, and it stuck with me. When the offering time came, the pastor stood up, didn't guilt anyone. He simply said, "We give as an act of worship, not out of obligation." But here's what really got me. After the service, the older couple who helped take my kids to the nursery walked us back to the place to pick up our kids after the service. They made us feel safe, seen, and welcomed. That's engaging worship. Not complicated, not polished, just God-centered, heartfelt, and transformational. So let me ask you again, if someone new walked into your church this Sunday, would they leave feeling like they met with God? One of the best ways to attract new people to your worship services is to teach your congregation how to evangelize, which is the next pillar. Pillar number 2, equipping evangelism. Evangelism doesn't have to feel scary or awkward. It starts with ordinary people sharing their stories in ordinary places. Pastor, when you hear the word evangelism, what comes to mind? For most people, even pastors, the word evangelism often evokes images of stadium events, street preachers with megaphones, or handing out tracts at the grocery store. But here's the thing. Most people in your church aren't going to do that. And honestly, they don't need to. Equipping evangelism involves training everyday believers to discuss Jesus in a way that flows naturally in their everyday lives. Over coffee, at work, even standing in a parking lot after a ball game. If someone in your church met a spiritually curious friend this week, would they feel confident enough to share their story of Jesus in 2 minutes or less? The answer to that question reveals a lot about your church. If you answered no, let's begin to change that by looking at how to equip your people to evangelize. First, teach the 15-second testimony. My life before I met Jesus, how I met Jesus, my life after I met Jesus. It's quick, it's personal, and it's memorable. It could sound something like this. Before I met Jesus, I was chasing success and approval, pouring myself into work, relationships, and achievements, but still felt empty and restless inside. And someone invited me to church, and over time I realized I didn't need to earn God's love, that through Jesus I could be fully forgiven and known just by trusting Him. I finally gave my life to Christ after reading this verse. Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. Since then, life hasn't been perfect, but now I walk with peace, purpose, and hope that isn't tied to performance or circumstances. This 15-second testimony format helps you share what your life was like before Jesus, what you were chasing, struggling with, or missing, and then explain how you came to trust Him and what has changed since. Keep it real, clear, and concise. Focus on Jesus as the turning point and demonstrate how knowing Him brings peace, purpose, and transformation. Next, create a clear assimilation path. An assimilation path is a simple step-by-step plan that helps new people transition from their first visit to feeling at home by meeting friends, joining a group, and finding a place to serve. Assimilation starts before Sunday. A simple plan your visit page on your website or social media and a QR digital connect card set expectations and make it easy for guests to be known without being singled out. An interesting strategy is the first fives. First 5 minutes, walk guests where they need to go and explain what to expect. First 5 hours, send a personal thank you text. First 5 days, invite to coffee. First 5 weeks, guide them to a newcomer luncheon or a short start here group. An assimilation plan should help new people become a part of the church body. One church I consulted, they funneled every new person onto one of 3 clear on-ramps or groups. Exploring faith group, where foundational Bible truths were taught. Growing faith groups, where discipleship was taught. Showing faith groups, where service to the community was practiced through service projects. Keep the on-ramps, the groups, personal. Tell one story each week. Assign real humans to follow up, like a follow-up coordinator or next steps host. And make invites warm, short, and specific. And these groups measure what matters most: guest capture, return rate, and next step rate. And you'll have a simple system any church can launch in 30 days to turn first-time guests into family. Next, share evangelism stories publicly. Most churches celebrate salvation, but if you want a church that actually evangelizes, you need to celebrate effort, not just results. Start sharing attempt stories. Someone prayed for a friend, invited a neighbor, or had a spiritual conversation. That person said no. Even when people say no, it is worth celebrating because it builds courage. When you celebrate faithfulness along with results, people stop waiting to be perfect and start taking courageous steps to share their story. Add fun tools like QR story cards, monthly story Sundays, and even visual boards or jars in the lobby to show that inviting is normal here. Over time, this builds a culture where evangelism isn't pressure, it's just what people do in your church. I worked with a church that started something that was called Second Sunday Stories. Every second Sunday, a member would share a 90-second story about inviting a friend or talking about their faith. Then the pastor gave one practical evangelism tip in 60 seconds. In just 3 months, 12 different people had their first gospel conversation, and none of them were staff members. Evangelism stopped being a scary program and began to become part of the church culture. And that's the beauty of equipping evangelism. When your people know how to share their faith in simple, natural ways, the mission of Jesus moves beyond your pulpit and into the streets. Here's the truth. Evangelism alone isn't enough. If people say yes to Jesus but never grow, they end up stuck. That's why the next pillar matters so much. Pillar number 3, transforming discipleship. A discipleship pathway is just a step-by-step plan that helps someone grow in their faith. Kind of like going from learning the basics to helping others grow too. It's not just about sitting in a church or finishing another Bible study. It's about becoming more like Jesus over time in real life. Churches that have a clear path, like follow Jesus, grow in Him, go help others, make it easier for people to know what to do next and stay moving forward. That's how Jesus taught. He didn't just lecture. He walked with people, showed them how to live, and then sent them out to do the same. Pastor, without a plan, people can get stuck or lost, just bouncing from one church event to another church event without really growing. But with a clear path, the church becomes a place where people get stronger in their faith and start helping others do the same. That's how we make disciples who make disciples. Do the people in your church actually know what their next step is in following Jesus? If not, that's on us to lay out a discipleship plan that will help anyone grow regardless of who they are or what they know. This is how you do it. First, create a simple discipleship pathway. You can call it something like know, grow, and show. A discipleship pathway is a simple roadmap that helps people mature in their faith, starting with knowing their faith by being taught the fundamental doctrines like the Trinity, prayer, salvation, faith, and God, then growing their faith by building deeper friendships and understanding in a small group built around what it means to be a disciple of Jesus, showing their faith by serving and helping others on the discipleship pathway. Without a path like this, new people can feel lost, simply attending church without truly changing or moving forward. Churches that use this kind of plan, such as know, grow, and show, make it easy for people to see their next step and continue to mature spiritually. It's not about doing a bunch of programs. It's about real transformation that helps people become stronger followers of Jesus who can lead and help others too. Some churches start very simple. They invite people to coffee, and that helps them feel welcomed right away and know that they belong. Next, launch a welcome to the table meal. A good meal breaks the ice and makes people feel at home. Do I get an amen? And that's the heart behind the welcome to the table meal. Once a month, invite new people, especially first-time guests or brand new believers. Invite them to a relaxed lunch where they can meet friendly people, hear about what your church believes, and just feel seen. No pressure, just real food, real conversation, and a short explanation of how they can grow their faith or get involved. It's not a class. It's more like hanging out in someone's living room with good food and clear next steps. The goal isn't just to hand them a brochure. It's to help them feel like, yeah, this could be my church family. If you do it regularly, you'll create the steady rhythm of welcoming people one table at a time. Next, recruit mentors. Mentoring doesn't mean you have to be a Bible expert. It just means you're willing to walk with someone who's newer in their faith. In a mentoring ministry, let's call it Walk With Me, you'll pair one younger believer with 2 or 3 mature Christians who meet twice a month, once a month, not to preach at them, but to listen, guide, and grow together. It's less like a classroom and more like a kitchen table, sharing stories, praying together, asking real questions, and talking about how to live this Jesus life day to day. You don't have to fix anyone. You just show up, be honest, and keep pointing to Jesus. Meeting as a small group helps the younger believer see different perspectives, and it makes sure that no one has to carry the weight of mentoring alone. Over time, those conversations build trust, friendship, and spiritual momentum. And the best part, you don't have to be miles ahead spiritually. just one step forward and willing to walk alongside someone who needs it. It's coffee and prayer, nothing complicated. Imagine walking into a church for the first time and being handed a one-page roadmap. Not a thick booklet, not a list of rules, but a clear, simple path with 3 big steps: know, grow, and show. That's what one church I consulted did. They didn't overcomplicate it. Every new believer was personally invited to a casual monthly breakfast. Nothing fancy, just good coffee, warm smiles, and a short, clear explanation of here's how you grow here. No pressure, just stories, next steps, and a seat at the table. The result? In just 4 months, nearly 70% of those newcomers had taken a next step, either joining a small group or meeting regularly with a mentor. That's discipleship that actually moves people forward. It wasn't about a program. It was about creating a culture where everyone could see the path, feel welcome onto it, and have someone walk it with them. Simple, relational, clear. And it worked. Discipleship isn't meant to happen in isolation. It thrives when someone walks alongside you. And that's exactly what I do with pastors like you. If these first 3 pillars have sparked something, I love to walk with you through a church health survey I've created built around these 3 pillars and the next 3. We'll take a look at where your church is healthy, where it may feel stuck, and what practical next steps can be taken for fresh clarity and growth. Just click the link below to schedule a free 30-minute call. We'll make it personal and helpful. And speaking of helping people take next steps, the 4th pillar is all about helping people step into ministry by discovering their God-given gifts and using them with purpose. Pillar number 4, inspiring ministry. Too often, ministry turns into a scramble to fill open roles, open slots on a schedule that needs to be covered. While that approach may keep things running, it often leads to burnout both for volunteers and leaders. Inspiring ministry takes a different approach. Instead of asking people to serve out of obligation, it helps them discover their God-given gifts and step into roles where they feel a true sense of calling and joy. The question becomes, are your people serving because they feel pressured or because they feel called? When individuals serve from a place of purpose rather than guilt, ministry becomes energizing, not exhausting. This shift doesn't just fill gaps, it strengthens the entire church by aligning passion with purpose. So, Pastor, why are people serving in your church? You can lay a foundation where people serve with joy because they're living out their calling by implementing a few strategies. First, help people discover their spiritual gifts. You can help people understand where they fit in the church by asking 3 questions. First, what energizes you? What do you do that makes you feel excited instead of tired? Second, what breaks your heart? What problems do you like to solve, or what people do you feel really passionate about helping? And third, what are you naturally good at? Perhaps you excel at explaining things, making people feel welcome, or generating creative ideas. When people answer these 3 questions, they start to get a picture of how God wired them. And that's usually where their spiritual gifts emerge. Their gifts aren't just talents, they're meant to build others up and help the church grow. Next, write a 1-page role card. If you're going to ask someone to help out at your church, you've got to make super clear what they're saying yes to. That's where a 1-page role card comes in. It's just a simple sheet that explains what the job is, why it matters, and what a win looks like. It tells them stuff like how often they'll serve, what they'll actually do, and how their role helps people feel loved or grow in faith. It's not about making it complicated. It's about helping them feel confident that they're the right fit. You can even include spiritual gifts that would make someone good at it, like if they're naturally encouraging or organized. When people understand their role, they're more likely to enjoy it and stick with it. It's way better than just asking someone to fill a spot without knowing what they're really signing up for. Next, offer test drives. Allow people to serve for 30 days without pressure to commit forever. Pastor, imagine if serving at your church felt more like trying on shoes instead of signing a contract. That's what a 30-day test drive is. It gives people a chance to jump into a role like helping greet people or working with the tech team just to see if it fits. No pressure, no guilt, and no awkward commitment if it's not their thing. It's smart because they get to actually experience what the team is like, what they'll be doing, and whether it gives them energy or just wears them out. And if it doesn't click, it's totally fine. They learned something, and now they can try something else. Churches that do this usually keep way more volunteers because people serve where they actually feel called, not where they feel cornered. It's about helping people discover how God wired them and giving them the freedom to figure it out and get plugged in. Next, celebrate volunteers publicly. You know how sometimes serving at church makes you feel invisible? That's why it's so powerful when the church actually says, hey, we see you and we're grateful. Some churches handwrite personal thank you notes that mention exactly what someone did and why it mattered. Others call volunteers up on stage or feature them in a short story during service, saying things like, Mary's smile calmed a nervous guest. And that really sticks. A few even have a volunteer appreciation Sunday or a movie night complete with food, games, and honest recognition. And honestly, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Sometimes just saying thank you in front of a group or sending a quick message makes people feel seen and valued. When volunteers feel appreciated, not only do they stay, they serve with greater joy and energy. I think about Miss Carol from one of the churches I consulted. She was a retired teacher in her 70s. She honestly believed her time in kids ministry had passed. She said things like,
I'm too old to keep up, and they probably want someone younger.
But the pastor and I saw a spark in her. So we gently reminded her of her gift working with children and invited her to give it a try. With a little training and a lot of encouragement, she stepped in. Not just to teach Bible stories, but to love those kids like a grandma would. Pretty soon, she wasn't just leading the class. She was mentoring young moms, praying over volunteers, and helping raise up new leaders. Her joy lit up the whole room. She didn't show up because someone guilted her into it. She showed up because she realized God wasn't done using her yet. And that's what inspiring ministry looks like. When people serve out of passion instead of pressure, the whole vibe of the church changes. It stops feeling like a job and starts feeling like a family. However, there's a catch. Recruiting volunteers and doing ministry can't all rest on your shoulders, Pastor. If it does, you'll burn out. That's why the next pillar is all about multiplying leadership. Pillar number 5, empowering leadership. Empowering leadership is about multiplying leaders instead of doing everything yourself. It's about mentoring, delegating, and building a leadership pipeline that lasts beyond you. Healthy churches don't just pile responsibilities on one pastor. They raise up other leaders so ministry doesn't stop when someone steps away. Think of it like building a team, not a solo act. You spot people with potential, train them, give them real responsibility, not just busy work, and then release them to lead. That means if you took off on vacation for a couple of months, the church could still run smoothly because it has a leadership pipeline working behind the scenes. It's not about removing the pastor's role. It's about adding more capacity, more life, more momentum to the church. With these simple steps, finding the right people, coaching them, and giving them real chances to lead, you'll begin multiplying leaders instead of burning them out. Pastor, if you missed this Sunday, what in your church would keep going and what would stop? Creating a leadership pipeline is crucial for effective ministry, and you can achieve this pipeline by incorporating a few elements. First, identify potential leaders. We only get so much time and energy. So think of 4 people you can invest in as your spiritual A-team. Not the shiny ones, but those who consistently show up, are actually free to grow, and are open to learning. That's what leaders mean when they say to look for people who are faithful, available, and teachable, even if they've been at the church for just a short time. These are the people who follow through, make space in their week, and don't act like they've got it all figured out. Pastor, it doesn't matter if they're young, old, new, seasoned. If they've got heart and hunger, they're worth your time. But don't just plug them into a program. Grab coffee with them, walk with them through real life, let them try things, and give you feedback. Think of it like planting seeds. You're intentionally starting with just 4. And over time, they'll grow into something that reproduces itself across your church. Next, follow a mentoring rhythm. Healthy leadership isn't just about telling someone what to do. It's about walking them through a growth process, one small move at a time. A good model breaks that journey into clear, simple steps. First, they watch as you do. Second, they help you do. Third, you help as they do. Fourth, you watch as they do. And then finally, they do. It's kind of like learning to ride a bike. You watch someone, you're helped, and then you're on your own. This method helps build confidence because the support gradually shifts from seeing to doing to owning the role. It's practical, not overwhelming, and lets you learn in real life situations, not just lectures. Plus, every stage includes conversation. So you're always processing what you're learning and not just doing. Over time, this doesn't just raise one leader, it creates a whole chain of people who can lead, guide, and grow even more leaders. Next, host leader labs. I helped a church start a leader lab program to help leaders grow by meeting together to cast vision, to learn one new skill, and to pray together. The goal is to come to a meeting that doesn't overwhelm, but instead sparks ideas, gives one clear ministry tool you can actually use, and then sends you off feeling spiritually refreshed. That's the rhythm of a leader lab. Pastor, you can even use a mentorship model with these labs as part of a longer training track, focusing on character, passion, vision, knowledge, and skill, all in small, focused sessions throughout the year. These labs are designed to equip people to produce and release other leaders. That means you learn, lead, and then help others do the same. And it works because it's short, focused, and soul refreshing, not a full workshop that leaves you glazed over. Delegate authority, not just tasks. When you trust someone with authority instead of just giving them work to do, something big happens within them. They stop thinking it's just a job and start owning it. Think of it this way. Pastor, when you assign tasks, it's like you are saying, here, do this. But when you give authority, it's like you saying you get to decide how to do it and how to make it great. That shift turns someone from a helper into a leader. It also means your church doesn't slow down if one person steps away. It keeps running because others own what they're doing. Plus, when people feel trusted and valued, they bring creativity and momentum you didn't even know the ministry needed. And you don't have to go at it alone. First, spot people who can grow. Then give them freedom and support. And before you know it, you've built a whole team that can lead and not just follow. I coached a church that felt like it was stuck. The pastor was running around doing everything, leading worship meetings, checking in on small groups, planning outreach events, visiting people in the hospital. You name it, he did it. He was exhausted. So I helped them organize leadership into 4 clear lanes. Celebrate. That was the worship and Sunday services. Connect. Small groups and discipleship. Contribute. Ministry and evangelism, care, pastoral support, and church support. Each lane got its own volunteer captain, people who weren't just warm bodies but had a heart for that specific area. The pastor didn't just dump tasks on them. He mentored each one, meeting monthly to check in, coach, and pray. And here's what happened. 6 months later, the pastor wasn't in every meeting anymore. Ministry didn't slow down. In fact, things ran better. Teams were making decisions, solving problems, and leading with confidence. People were stepping up, not burning out. That's the power of empowering leadership. It's not about doing less ministry. It's about multiplying leadership. Because when you stop holding everything and start handing off ownership, the church doesn't depend on you. And it doesn't fall apart when you rest, go on a sabbatical, or raise up new leaders. But leadership by itself isn't enough. Structure without love feels cold. That's why the final pillar may just be the most important one of them all. Pillar number 6, loving community. Church isn't just something you go to. It should feel like home, where people don't just come, they belong. Loving community helps first-time guests return and regular attenders stay. If someone shows up once and you don't check in to see if they'll come back, you've missed a chance to say you matter. Statistics show only 10 to 20% of first-time guests return for a second visit. And that second visit is critical because returning is the test that people aren't just curious, they're looking for a place to belong. To create a loving community towards guests, churches need to follow up with sincere care, not vague newsletters or mass texts, but a friendly text, call, or even a handwritten note inviting them back. Returning is not the same as staying. People stay at church where they feel a connection. And that happens when individuals build relationships, find support, and discover how they can contribute to the life of the church. If someone attends but no one follows up, remembers their name, or invites them deeper into the church's life, they're likely to slip away. The goal is not simply attendance. It's cultivating a sense of belonging that moves people from visiting to attending to serving. If someone disappeared from your church for 3 weeks, who would notice? Pastor, if you said no one, it's okay. Let's begin changing that this Sunday by doing a couple of things. Number 1, appoint care captains. You know how easy it is to show up once at a group or to a ministry and then drift away? Helping the church feel like family means having someone in each group, each ministry, who notices when you're gone. And that's exactly why a care captain is gold. Their job is simple. Check in on people during the week. Organize meals for those who are sick or grieving. And pray for genuine needs. Churches that establish care networks ensure that nobody slips through the cracks, even when life gets messy. It's not complicated or perfect. It's just someone who cares enough to remember your name. Ask, how are you doing? Say, I'm here for you. That kind of personal connection doesn't just keep people coming. It helps them feel a sense of belonging. Next, teach conflict resolution using Matthew 18. Jesus gave us a clear step-by-step way to make things right when someone hurts us. And it all starts with a private face-to-face reconciliation. You go to them first and gently share what's hurtful, hoping they'll listen and you restore the relationship. If that doesn't work, he says to bring 1 or 2 trusted friends into the conversation, people who can stay neutral and help keep things fair. If it still goes unresolved, it's time to involve the broader community like trusted leaders so the issue doesn't fester in secret. The goal here isn't punishment. It isn't embarrassment. It's reconciliation and love, bringing people back together in unity, not breaking relationships. When we teach this as the norm, not something strange, it turns conflict from something scary into a chance to show grace, build trust, and prove that the church is truly a place where people learn to live like Jesus even when they make mistakes. Next, do acts of kindness in your community. Doing one small act of kindness every month, like a school supply drive, meal drop, cleaning up the neighborhood, does more than just help. It tells your community we see you and we care. It could be something simple like handing out backpacks full of school supplies before school starts, or mowing an elderly person's lawn. These aren't big flashy events. They're practical, hands-on ways to show love. When you do these consistently, monthly, quarterly, you become known in your community, not just as a building, but as a group that truly cares and helps in real ways. Simple, thoughtful actions create opportunities. You might meet someone who needs prayer, or someone might attend church service who you helped the previous week. In time, these acts build trust, open doors for real relationships, and show what it means to be a loving, serving community. A church that I helped made a simple but powerful move. They added care captains to every small group. These weren't pastors or paid staff, just regular members with a heart for people. Their role? Each week they checked in with group members, organized meals when someone was sick or had a baby, and made sure prayer needs weren't missed. But the real game changer was a habit they called Who's Missing. At the end of every group gathering, they'd name 1 or 2 people who hadn't been for a while and asked who's reaching out to them this week. No one slipped through the cracks. People felt seen, missed, and cared for. And even as the church grew in size, it actually started to feel smaller because love was happening at the group level, not just from the stage. That's the kind of structure that turns a church from a crowd into a caring family. Pastor, let me ask you something. What would actually change if these 6 pillars were strong in your church? What would Sundays feel like? What would Monday morning ministry look like? Here's where it all comes together. And I'll share with you the one health question I ask to measure real health in churches. But before I ask the question, I want to mention the 6 pillars again. Number 1, engaging worship. Number 2, equipping evangelism. Number 3, transforming discipleship. Number 4, inspiring ministry. Number 5, empowering leadership. Number 6, loving community. Pastor, here's the one health check question I ask. Who was new this month and what's their next step? If you can answer that, your church is moving towards health. Pastor, you don't need to fix everything by Sunday. You don't have to do all 6 pillars. Just pick one. Focus on one pillar. Drop a comment in the description below. Which pillar are you working on first? I love to hear. I invite you to watch this video next, where I explain the 6 ways to beat burnout and grow your church.